If I didn't know you guys and I just hear you talking, I'm thinking Ghostbusters.
Every spring, we get to find out who left their garden hose hooked up all winter.
Should they call you or a company like you first? Should they call their insurance company first?
If it's this whole building is full of water, we need to be your first call. Insurance companies aren't created equal.
The biggest thing that I see with a lot of people is they assume that what they've bought takes care of everything all the time.
The only time I understand my policy is after a claim.
I think I would recommend when someone is shopping for insurance that
Nobody really likes insurance, and I don't like talking about it. So tell me a story.
Drip, splash, splashing up on the drywall.
For years.
And it made a nice little surface coating of loveliness.
They shot this nail, it hit the pipe. 3 years later, they have a water leak. It took that long for that nail to rust off and create a big enough hole for water to come out.
I thought you were going to tell about me giving you a bath.
Oh, that was a good one too.
We did have a Oriental rug come in that definitely had a swastika on it.
You could walk into any room at any time and say you've got mold.
Yes.
Scare the crap out of people and get them to hire you.
This is not a binary thing.
You're most useful when people are having some of their worst days.
Trauma amnesia. People seem to forget.
How cold does it have to be before you let your faucets drip when you go to bed?
But that's a nearly impossible question to answer.
This episode is sponsored in part by the Massimo Group. Are you a commercial real estate broker looking to boost your business? The Massimo Group is the world's premier coaching organization, transforming the careers of brokers just like you, just like it did for me. Visit www.massimo-group.com today to get started and take your career to the next level. This episode is also brought to you by Site to Do Business, commercial real estate's most advanced toolkit, providing commercial real estate professionals like me with premier data, mapping, and marketing tools to win business and revolutionize decision-making. Visit stdb.com to learn more.
Good. Sweet. Welcome to Commercially Speaking. I'm Timmy Barron, ADHD.
And I'm Bo Barron, CCIM.
And this is the Commercial Real Estate Podcast where Bo, my brother Bo, teaches me everything about commercial real estate investing, brokerage, everything. I started out not knowing a thing, and now we're near 100 episodes, and I know pretty much everything.
Speaking of 100 episodes.
Yeah.
We've got just a little tease it a little bit. We got a special 100th episode.
Yes,
coming up.
Oh my goodness.
Incredible guest. It's just going to be an all around special episode. So
yeah. I don't know how today's going to go, but I'd say that 100th episode guest would probably be my all-time favorite.
Well, I'm not sure how today's going to go at all. So yeah. I thought I'd start off by at least piquing some interest on a future episode in case this one completely flops.
Which I don't think it will. Well, speaking of,
look, we've got my good friend Stuart Lipscomb and one of his guys, Ethan, and we're going to talk disasters today.
Sweet. Okay.
We are going to talk about
disasters
things go wrong in commercial real estate.
All right. This is interesting because we just talked to James Milner, who was part of the area that got affected by the hurricane.
Yeah, Hurricane Helene came into, I forget the name of his town, but
Boone,
North Carolina.
That's right, Boone, North Carolina.
And just hammered that place.
That's right. Watauga County.
Luckily, we don't deal with hurricanes here, but we just had a serious flood.
Yeah, we did.
Probably the biggest flood I've seen since I was in college.
Yeah, it was huge.
90s.
Yeah.
And I've had a self-storage facility burn.
Mm-hmm.
I've had an apartment flood.
Okay.
Like water burst, I think.
Okay.
I've dealt with some of this before. I've actually hired Stuart to help me with some of that in the past. So yeah, this is going to be a unique episode where we just hear about, we're not talking IRRs and how good things can go.
Yeah.
When everything goes right.
Oh, bummer.
It never goes right all the time.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be an owner or a broker or some type of professional in the commercial real estate space, at some point in time, you're going to get to deal with what happens when things go wrong.
Yeah.
It's the stuff. I mean, Ethan, you were just telling me about, this building downtown that had some plumbing run to the roof on this really cool rooftop deck. I've been on that deck and it got super cold. That busted and that water ran down all 3 stories of that building.
Oh boy.
It's like,
I can't wait. I
So
can't
like
wait for this episode.
when things go bad, it can be really bad. But yeah, Stuart, Ethan, man, welcome to the show. We're excited
Thanks for
to
having
hear.
us.
And you decked us out with some swag. So we got our Lipscomb hats on and
We got shirts and we got
shirts.
we did bourbon.
Yeah. Coal Pick Distillery.
Yeah.
Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey.
To jump into it, Stuart, tell me a little bit about how you got into this.
Sure.
You know? Were you always interested in restoration?
Yeah, so this was my father's business for 30-something years. He was a carpet cleaner, but he would do a lot of everything. He would get hired to do carpet cleaning, and then the customer would have other needs, and he'd be like, "Well, yeah, I can do that," right? So I think that's kind of where I get the whatever it takes attitude, just get it done.
Yeah.
You know. So, but I carried his lunchbox around for as long as I could remember.
Wow.
And then in 2019, I took over 100% of that, and he retired and rides his motorcycle and his horses.
Do you realize how we're connected?
No.
Do you know kind of the backstory?
No.
Okay, so there was a period of time, I don't know what years they are, but you can say, because you went to Brescia, correct?
2011 is when I met your dad for the first time.
Okay, so 2012, I leave the company and I go work with SVN International on the corporate side. And then I do that for a year. Then I'm with Hollison for a couple of years. Then I do 3 years with the Moss Mill Group before I come back. Well, during that time, Dad meets Stuart and your dad and does some of the things that Dad does. Like he strikes some deals. So why don't you were live and in person with some of that stuff. I just heard about it later. So share with Timmy like kind of how you got.
So I was going to Brescia University, which is also where I met my wife, another story.
Okay.
But got my associate's degree, and I started doing kind of market research and seeing that there was a need for, someone else in the market here that does what we do. So I started looking for some space to keep our equipment, because our equipment, all of it has some kind of water component. So if it freezes, it's bad news.
Yeah, okay.
So we have to have somewhere to keep it inside and conditioned, especially in the wintertime. So I was looking for a space that had like warehouse and an office. So I get on Google and I started looking, because I'm not from here.
Yeah.
I'm from Eddyville, Lyon County. And I was driving down Salem Drive and I saw something that was just like, this is perfect. This is what we need. So I think maybe his number was on a sign. He answers.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
He meets us like within the hour. He's like, yeah, I'll be right there. And I don't know how it came about, but we ended up washing and prepping and painting all three of those AAA buildings on Salem Drive. In exchange for a 3-year lease.
Is that not the most Bill Barron thing ever?
That's so Dad. That's so Dad. I'm surprised he didn't wash his car too.
Well, I think he was building the cabin at the time up in Brown County.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's about right.
He had gotten some barn wood from somewhere, and we laid it out in that parking lot and washed it. He was helped me with it. Me and him did that, and he had me over to the house after and had a Corona with him.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, we just talked about business for a minute. I really appreciated that a lot.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I left. I was in a dorm or apartment at Brescia. Had some roommates there that thought I was crazy, but I moved into that storage building and lived in it for a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
While I started this business.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in the back. It was it was pitch black, had no windows in the back.
Yeah.
So
it was air conditioned?
It was air conditioned, heated. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like an office. So the one side was like office space, and it had a bathroom and a little kitchen.
Yeah.
That we put in,
but not a shower.
Well, we put the shower in.
Put the shower in.
The shower in. Yeah.
We went and bought a shower. So your dad joked around and said, "You live in the back here, and go get you a YMCA membership."
Yeah.
And you just take your showers down there.
Yeah.
Well, I had a wise idea to go to Lowe's and just get a $300 shower kit. We put it in, tapped it in, and that's where I took my showers.
But talk about being able to sleep in.
Yeah.
It's like being in a cave.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it is Like
It's
you can't
like-
see your hand in front of your face.
Yeah, it's like the basement at mom and dad's house.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Where Brody,
That-
that's his room right now.
That was my room when I
That's
when
right.
I came back for a semester of college.
Yeah, you can't see a hand in
But
front
it
of your
wasn't
face.
finished back then. It was just all concrete.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. No,
And I had to
remember.
pay rent
I couldn't.
to concrete,
Yeah.
unfinished basement. It was only like $50 a month, but
Yeah, I remember that. And I remember after you left, I couldn't wait to go down there and take, like band practice and put up my own posters.
oh
You
yeah.
made it look so cool to a 10-year-old.
Probably to only a 10-year-old.
Maybe only a 10-year-old. Yeah. So Ethan, so you were telling me about your first grade teacher.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. How did you come into the mix here? Are you and Stuart old friends or?
So I met Stuart. He moved to Owensboro, and my wife and his wife were friends. So whenever he started dating his wife, she brought him around.
Oh,
So I met him. He just showed up at my house one day.
You were just forced.
Yeah, I mean, really,
Yeah.
really, that's basically what it was. He just showed up at my house one day, and
Like a stray dog. He just showed up. We fed him and he never went away.
it's more true than it is false.
he keeps asking to sleep on the couch for some reason.
He does like to fall asleep on couches in random places, but
I can relate to
free
that.
beer that he had at his house. I don't even know that I was 21 yet, actually.
he was not, which restricted us greatly. But so, hung around with him and his wife for years, and I was doing my own thing and decided to step out of that and decided to step into this. So,
And so how long you been with Lipscomb?
4 years now.
Yeah, and he's our operations manager. He started at the bottom of understanding everything and has helped us grow to where we are. So he's really done a great job building and leading a team.
Nice.
I'm really happy to have Ethan on board.
Now, before we get into some of the stories,
Yeah.
we got the privilege of helping you find the building you're in out in Whitesville.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And part of that is there's an area where you actually still clean rugs and
Right.
Do you still do carpet cleaning too?
We do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. But have you ever seen the YouTube videos where somebody's cleaning the
I love
the
those.
rugs?
I love those.
He's got that space in his building where they
You,
do
that's, what,
that.
that's part of what you do?
Yeah.
You could almost sell tickets to that.
Yeah.
There's so much satisfaction
There
in watching.
is.
Of course, you'd have to do it at high speed, like those videos,
This is time lapse up from your phone. Just time lapse it.
Mhm.
Do you ever do those videos? Or
We've got some content, but
Yeah, we've got some videos.
yeah, I mean every rug or everything that you do, if you just time lapse it and just throw it up on TikTok, it's gonna blow up. It will.
yeah.
People love those videos. Anyway,
It's
Yeah.
like my daughter watches those videos where people are like shaving soap.
oh yeah,
Just satisfying.
oh yeah, satisfying.
And I'm like, what are you watching? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like,
Especially when you throw the headphones on.
it's like,
You know,
move over, kid.
Yeah.
Like,
it's that ASMR. Yeah,
yeah. I like that carpet cleaning stuff, those videos.
I do too. I love them.
And they're gross.
Some of them are. Yeah.
Well, a lot of those, they bring in on those rug cleaning videos, they bring in these horribly filthy rugs. And, it's kind of, you have to assume it's staged. But even the ones that just come out of somebody's home, you'd be surprised how much dirt comes out of
yeah.
be surprised.
I can imagine. I didn't know that existed outside of TikTok, so I'm kind of blown away right now.
Yeah.
It's alive.
We can get you some hands-on
Definitely in
someday if
Whitesville.
you want to come out and
Yeah,
get
Timmy
hands-on.
just went
It'd be
all
fun.
fanboy.
I
over
would
the carpet
love
cleaning.
to, I would
Yeah.
love to, right?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. How often do you all, we're going to talk carpets for a second. How often do people bring in their rugs or carpets?
Every week.
Every week.
Mm-hmm.
And do you get ones that are as dirty as you see sometimes, or?
No.
We think that people put those out in the parking lot
Yeah,
and
no.
and put them out in the yard and stuff to get them that dirty. I mean,
Yeah.
they've
Just
really
make better videos.
Yeah.
That way.
Yeah.
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. No, it seems like then it's just like pretty much routine. Oh, we got to get this rug cleaned.
I mean, we've had some interesting stains come through and some interesting patterns. I'll tell you about that later. Interesting
Oh,
patterns.
I don't know why later is necessary. Like this is
Well,
Well,
interesting patterns.
Yeah, what's the most
Like-
interesting? Like,
Like
a lot of these rugs are Oriental and they're antiques and stuff.
yeah,
and I don't think this was how it was meant, but we did have a Oriental rug come in that definitely had a swastika on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't
pattern.
think that was, I think there's other symbolic meanings, maybe,
there is.
but I definitely assumed the other when I saw it. So,
Right. Yeah, because if it's an Oriental rug,
yeah.
it wouldn't have come from Germany.
Yeah.
It would have been before, the Nazis took over the swastika, because it did mean other things before
Yeah.
the Nazis perverted it. Anywho, little history lesson there. Very vague information. That's about all I know.
Coming from a very credible source in history, like
Yeah,
like
it's true. Yeah.
you're speaking with a lot of confidence.
I know, but I can't get any more detailed than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But like when you said patterns, I thought of like blood splatters or.
So we've had blood and pet
Yeah.
feces and urine and all that stuff. That's
Oh, I
all
can't
that
wait
stuff.
can't wait to come on down.
Well, let's transition over to when things go wrong in the restoration process. I want to hear some stories,
Yeah.
but I also want to make sure that our listeners understand what are some of the things like property owners do that really shoot themselves in the foot when something goes bad. We can kind of wrap up with that kind of idea. And what are like, hey, besides just calling you guys when something goes wrong, like, somebody's in Denver or Dallas or whatever listening to this, like what are like the first one or two things they need to do to make sure that they have the best shot at actually restoring their space in a way that insurance will favorably participate?
Well, so you mentioned insurance. Insurance, so it's considered a safety net. It's kind of like a safety net. When you buy insurance, when you pay your premium,
Yeah, you're transferring risk
transferring
to the
risk.
insurance company. Yeah.
Right. And so when you're walking the tightrope of life and business, it's there to catch you when you fall, right?
Yeah.
So
Supposedly.
all insurance companies aren't created equal.
I
And
agree.
and when you file a claim, that's when you're getting the product that you're paying for. So I think I would recommend that when someone is shopping for insurance, or if you're a property owner, that you talk to the people around you that you trust that you're going to have do the work. Like if you have a disaster happen, or if you have whatever it might be that you might need to file an insurance claim, go talk to those guys and see what their experiences are with the carriers that you're shopping insurance with.
Yeah. Right.
Because, we have a lot of insight on what the claims practices are and how they treat us as the contractor. We can give you some insight on who's the good guy and who's...
When it comes to insurance with this, you would have national insurance companies, and then I'd imagine some local ones
Right.
as well.
Right.
Yeah, give us some insight as to.
Well, I can't get real specific, and I'm going to
Yeah, I don't know that you want to name names
No.
here, but
yeah,
but as an example, I've had claims where the insurance company, like the agent who actually sold me the policy, quarterbacks the whole process.
Yeah.
Like, that person is involved. They're taking the pressure off me, and they're rolling through.
Well, they
I've
care.
had other companies where the guy who sold me the policy says, "Here's the adjuster's number," and then they're done. Like they
Right.
sold their policy. They're not really getting involved in the service I've bought. Like when it's time to collect on what I've paid for, they just connect me with the adjuster. It's just different business models.
yeah,
But like, I have a real preference towards the one versus the other. But there's different ways they do business. Maybe you can just talk about some things to look for without naming names.
I think your local agent, having someone to represent you in a time of crisis, is really important, and having a relationship with them, that's paramount. There are these companies that are selling insurance online where you can go just shop online. You don't get an agent then. You're at the mercy of your receipt.
yeah. Oh,
And do you have any insight you want to add to that?
The biggest thing that I see with a lot of people is they assume that what they've bought takes care of everything all the time,
yeah,
and they don't actually know what they bought. How many people have ever read their policy or understand what policy limitations there are?
The only time I understand my policy is after a claim.
Exactly.
Because you read through it and you kind of trust your agent to cover what you need. and you want the lowest price imaginable and great service, which don't always go together very well.
Right.
And when it's time, when there's a claim, then you really find out what you bought. Yeah. And it's too late to change anything.
And if you go buy property insurance for a commercial property and you shop 2 different carriers, 2 different policies, just because they have the same title, they don't.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of differences. There's a lot of little nuances and little specific things that can really cause you some issues down the road or help you down the road.
Any tips on reading those things? You know, like
No.
Yeah.
No.
Upload to ChatGPT and ask it to summarize.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
Yeah, there we go.
That's not that yet.
That's a great idea.
I was
actually.
kind of kidding, but I should do that.
Yeah, 100%.
Or actually, if you don't want to throw your policy into ChatGPT, just go to Notebook LM.
Yeah, Notebook LM.
Have y'all used Notebook LM?
Oh boy,
This is my favorite new AI tool.
Yeah.
It's a Google product. It's free. I mean, everybody basically has a Gmail account at this point. If you don't, get one. But Notebook LM allows you to upload your sources, whether it's an insurance policy or, we use it a lot when we do market analysis for a market. Let's say we were looking at a deal in Dallas. I might go out to the internet and find the quarterly market reports from a bunch of the big commercial real estate companies. I can upload them into Notebook LM, and then it will only look at what I've uploaded. It's like it turns its creativity off. It's not going out to all the internet to try to make me happy with its answers. It's just looking at what I gave it, and then I can query it just like ChatGPT, but it's only going to look at what's there.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll create a podcast episode where 2 people talk about that information.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. You can't tell that it's AI generated voice.
Wow.
And what I did recently, this is cool. I don't think I told you about this. Maddie's, my daughter's basketball team made it to the state Sweet 16 tournament. So I'm leaving after this and driving to Lexington to see her Clay and Rupp Arena.
They have made history.
First time in school history.
Yeah.
Made it.
Yeah, no, this is huge news.
I would like to point out that
Congratulations.
50% of the time when my daughter is on the high school team, they go to state. They've never gone before, but 50% of the time when my daughter's on the team, they go to state.
That's awesome.
Since she's a sophomore. Yeah. But I took the scouting reports during the district and regional tournaments, and I uploaded them into Notebook LM, created that podcast episode of these 2 people discussing the strengths and weaknesses of the other team they were about to play, and then sent the coach the podcast episode.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Now, I don't think any of the girls wanted to listen to it,
Well,
but the coaches thought it was cool.
yeah, I bet the girls would. I bet Maddie would act like she didn't want to listen to something that you prepared or put together.
Maddie absolutely told me emphatically that I'm not listening to that.
Yeah. Well, I bet.
Probably because it came from me.
Right.
But
I bet she did. I bet you did, Maddie. I bet Maddie's not listening to this.
I bet you're right.
Yeah. But as far as Notebook LM, what I would do would be I'd take the policy I'm looking at, I'd throw it in there. I'd also find a few YouTube videos, right? This episode being one of them, where people are talking about insurance or tips on how to choose insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would use those sources and have it create that 20-minute podcast. And then the bullet points too.
Because it'll create a briefing document or FAQs or study guides.
Right. Anyway, but we do have humans here that can help.
Yeah, but nobody really likes insurance, and I don't like talking about it. So tell me a story.
Before, I would like to say that, there's a language of the policy that's being interpreted, and then there's the actual practice of how the claim's handled on the back end.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some companies will allow a company like ourselves to go do all this work, say, okay, you're good to go. This is covered. No problem. Just send us the invoice. So we do all this. We document everything. We send the invoice. They get the invoice and they either try to negotiate it heavily or they send it to a third party administrator to go through it and negotiate with us on it after the work's all done.
Oh boy.
So that can be really messy.
Yeah.
And hard to explain to a customer why that's happening.
Is there anything that you can do to protect yourself from that, or is it just
Insurance companies are really, really big, and customers, especially if they don't have the funds to take care of something on their own, depending on how big it is, what size it is, it puts us in a position of wanting to serve our customer to the highest level, communicate with them, get them everything that they need, want, and deserve, and then having to come to them with bad news about something like this. So we want to be helpful, but it really puts us in a tough position sometimes.
I know.
I had an insurance company back in the day that I think did something like this to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, do they still operate that way? And
Absolutely.
greatly, or like at a broader question is, you probably know
Mm-hmm.
going in
Yeah.
who the companies are you need to,
Yeah.
that are going to try to treat you that way.
When we get calls from getting insurance involved is one of the last things that we try to do. We want to go in and evaluate the situation and see if the damage if it's even necessary to involve the insurance company. But when it is, and we ask and we hear certain names come up, we just say, I'm sorry, but we don't work with that carrier, and we're going to have to, we're happy to do this work for you, but we need to be paid upon completion.
Yeah.
that was my next question is, do you actually potentially turn away business
Absolutely, yeah.
versus working with certain insurance companies?
There are certain situations where it's that dramatic.
Was my assumption correct as far as like, I don't even know if I said it out loud actually, as far as like local versus national? My assumption is local would be covering better than some nationals.
I think you have better representation in some situations, and there's your agents that work for one carrier, and then there's your agents that are brokers that represent several carriers, and they have opportunity to shop more, I guess. But a lot of your local agents, they're building their business, they're building their relationships, and it's important to them that your customers taken care of.
Right.
So they're going to go to bat for you. But if they can only do what the policy says, if the policy says that, for example, a leak over time is not covered, what's the definition of leak over time? I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah.
And then, but that they'll lean on that sometimes.
Well, I want to hear a story of like, you all did a great, like you came in, did a great job. And then at the end, well, it doesn't have to be insurance related, but.
Well,
want to focus on the positive stuff.
Yeah, sure. Well, this episode is, when things go bad.
Yeah.
But no, let's go.
I hear you.
No, we can focus on the positive stuff.
You guys don't get calls when things are positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can turn it positive.
Yeah.
how about Central City flash floods?
Oh, so commercial strip mall in Central City, it was a strange rain, torrential downpour in an isolated area. This creek flooded out of the banks, flooded the whole strip mall with dirt, muddy water.
Ooh.
We got there and the entire strip mall, every glass pane on the front of the building is just dripping water.
Oh.
So, and it was a mess, and it was dirty, and
So how far up was the water in this building?
it probably only, it just was enough to cover everything in a nice layer of dirt.
Well, let me unpack this a little bit, because here's some of the things I learned when I had that flood in that apartment complex.
So yours was a sewage backup. That was
even better.
Toilet
That's
overflowed.
Right. I try to put that out of my mind. The drywall, Timmy, even if you have just a little water, it sucks up all the moisture.
Yeah.
What a nice thing to do.
Yeah. Right.
With sewage backup.
Oh, nice.
So I went in there one day and I had that much water, or what was something like water.
Liquid.
And the drywall is cut out of my apartment like 2-3 feet high or whatever. And I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
So then he'd explained to me the absorption qualities of drywall and et cetera. But give me a feel for when you get that much. Okay. So you got mud coating everything.
Yeah.
You got the drywall sucking up the moisture. What else is going on that you don't see?
So just saturation in the materials that you don't see soaking into the concrete. It's just saturating a lot of materials and contaminating a lot of stuff. Something that was really interesting on that one. The humidity got so high, and the property owner decided to not have us perform a complete scope of work, but all the ceiling tiles had taken on so much moisture from the humidity that they were sagging. I can only assume they all ended up in the floor after we left, but it was...
So walk me through, y'all get a call, you go down to that strip mall, you see what's going on, and then what happens next?
We started immediately sucking up water.
Well, how do you do that?
But y'all have
with
toys.
a straw?
Yeah, we do have
have
toys.
Yeah, I want to hear about that
So,
too. Like
Probably half of our fleet is equipped with truck-mounted extractors and cleaners, so similar equipment that we use to clean carpet in homes.
Oh, okay.
First of all, we inspect everything and try to we map the water and figure out where it's gotten to. We determine the source and the category of the water. And, in this situation, that's a category 3 source. So it's in the same category as sewage.
Okay.
It's come from a creek or rising floodwaters.
We don't know whether Bob up the hill doesn't have a septic tank and just has it draining straight into that creek.
Right.
There's no way for anybody to know. So you pretty much have to assume that it's less than ideal.
Okay.
Well, and explaining that to a property owner can be difficult because they're thinking, well, I used to swim in that creek, or I used to splash around in mud puddles when I was a kid. But when you bring that water into a indoor environment and it's saturating all these materials, then it can really cause a lot of damage and be an issue.
Right. You got to assume the worst. So that would be category 3. Is that the highest? No, what are the categories?
So the IICRC is the body that trains us and teaches us and certifies us. It stands for the Institute of Inspection, Cleaning, and Restoration. They have 3 categories of water. There's category 1 is fresh water. Category 2 is slightly contaminated water. And category 3 is grossly contaminated.
Gross.
Grossly.
It's just gross.
Yeah.
Grossly contaminated.
You ever seen the, you grill steak and you got the thermometer, you poke it in there.
Yeah.
They've also got infrared thermometers. So you just sort of shoot the thing and it'll tell you what the surface temperature of the meat is.
Right. Yeah.
He's got a little gadget where he points it at the wall and pulls the trigger, and it tells you how much moisture's in whatever he's pointing it at.
Oh, really?
Sort of. So why don't you talk about hygrometers and moisture meters?
So we have different ways of detecting. We have moisture meters that just measure the amount of moisture content in materials. So that's a literal meter. You put it on the surface of something. It measures electrical conductivity, which is affected by the amount of water. Those are a direct measurement. But something else that we use a lot in the field, especially in these emergency situations, is thermal imaging. And thermal imaging allows you to come in and you'll get a view of, you can see what's wet and what's not based on color changes because of evaporative cooling. So as water evaporates, it cools, so you'll have these cool spots. And it's really cool that you can see a amazing outline of what's wet. I mean, it's pretty cool.
You just wouldn't see with the naked eye.
No,
Right.
A lot of times you can't see it.
Right.
It's like NVGs for water.
Mm-hmm.
This is so fascinating. It is. Yeah.
It's almost like if I didn't know you guys and I just hear you talking, I'm thinking Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
They got their packs on and their goggles and this stuff.
Yeah.
We gotta get you a hearse with the
Sometimes
siren
we look
on it.
that way.
We actually have all the stuff to pull it off.
Yeah.
We could go full Ghostbusters for you.
Okay, so this would be an example of moisture, right? What you just explained would be finding water and moisture.
Sure.
And would that be like the number one reason you all are getting calls in this area is because something got flooded or?
Most of the service we provide in this area is going to be water leaks, floods from water leaks, and then whenever those things aren't handled appropriately, then the subsequent mold.
Oh, right.
We do a lot of mold remediation work, and that's kind of an area that we excel in and specialize in as well.
Okay. Yeah.
We had an end cap in a strip center not too long ago. It was vacant for a while. Looked like we were going to lease it out, and there was big cooler that had been in that spot on the wall for years, maybe 10 years. When that cooler was moved, all of a sudden there was mold behind it, and so you guys got to clean that up for us.
Yeah, they had a mini split directly over top of it, and the condensate drain from that mini split was stopped up. So all the condensate, instead of going outside the building, was dripping down into the floor. Drip, splash, splashing up on the drywall.
For years.
And it made a nice little surface coating of loveliness.
Oh,
Lovely.
loveliness. Yeah, so when it comes to mold, right? How do you find mold? Would it be similar gadgets or?
A lot of times there's visual. You know, you can come in, you can see it, you can smell it, you know it's there. You don't know exactly what species it is or quantity, but a lot of times you come in and there's a visual aspect.
Yeah.
When you don't see it and people have suspicions of it for health reasons, we're having breathing issues, or my doctor told me that there's a probability that I've had mold exposure, things like that. The protocol to determine that is completely different than moisture. You know, you're not going in and directly probing areas. I mean, a lot of times we're going around and doing air quality. We do have the capability of doing in-house testing we can do surface testing, but we do air quality testing as well, which gives you a snapshot of what's going on in the room and allows you to say, okay, the counts are really high in here. We've got a problem going on in this room somewhere. We need to figure out what's going on.
Okay, I have a question about this.
Okay.
Because I think mold is one of those things that would be easy to use as a scare tactic. And here's what I understand about mold, which is not very much, but it's everywhere all the time.
Mm-hmm. It is.
You don't ever walk into a room that doesn't have some kind of mold exposure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
All right, so you could walk into any room at any time and say, you've got mold.
Yes.
Scare the crap out of people and get them to hire you.
We wouldn't do that.
I know you wouldn't, but I've seen that kind of thing
Right,
done.
sure.
So like,
Right.
if you say mold and my wife hears it, she's going to go,
Right.
oh no, like we have to do something about that. But the reality is there's mold all the time.
So-
and there's like how many different species of
A
mold
lot.
and how much of it is like really bad?
That is a great question. I'm really glad you asked that. So anybody could walk in and say, you've got mold, or they could get the Lowe's kit and hold it out with their bare hand and it shows up. There's little fuzzy things growing. You got mold. You need to do something. That's
Almost fraudulent. If you
it's
ask me.
nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the way that we do it is actually, we're pulling control samples to say this is what is present in the outdoor environment. We have a laundry list of past samples and post remediation samples and a lot of expertise in what good is. And then we also have the controls. Whenever we take a sample indoor, we're looking at what species it is, how much there is, and we're evaluating, is there a problem or is there not? It's not a zero or a one. This is not a binary thing where if you have anything, you've got mold. Listen, this is not a clean room. This is not a medical surgery center.
Sure.
It's not going to be perfect. The question is there a problem? We did a project for you and did some testing in there because the tenant, I believe the new tenant, was worried about some issues from the previous tenant. And we did some testing in there before. There was quite a bit of contamination by a species of concern that was directly correlated to water damage.
All right, let me translate that for just a second. A lot of the bad stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I followed him.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I followed him.
I just tease him. He's not really that dumb.
So, but whenever we did our inspection and everything, there was visible signs, but there was also extremely elevated counts, which affected, we knew what we were going to do. And Bo said, take care of us here, but we needed to know how far we need to go. How extreme is this? What's the level? Is this isolated? Is it the whole building? So it kind of affected our protocol by knowing how bad the contamination was and what we're dealing with.
And that space was going from a restaurant to a professional office.
Ooh.
So you can imagine all the water that's used in any kind of restaurant. There's moisture, there's heat, there's ovens. You've got that kind of environment.
Right.
And then it transitions into a professional office.
Right. Yeah.
It did smell really good in there, though.
It must have been a good restaurant.
It might have been one of the ones that your dad made a deal with in the past.
Oh, probably Great Harvest Bread Company.
No.
No, Great Harvest is still there.
Oh, gotcha. This is, okay. Papa Murphy's.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
That was the only tenant we lost during COVID.
Yeah, this is a shame. It's so good. So good.
They're going to charge you extra to bake it yourself.
Yeah. Happy to do it. Happy to do it. If somebody is concerned about mold, what are the obvious things that when you see it or you can smell it or you think it's there, that it's like, would definitely call y'all?
As a commercial real estate broker, your success depends on the right strategies and guidance. The Massimo Group, the world's top coaching organization for brokers, can help you scale your business and increase your income. And as a former client, I've personally experienced how their coaching can transform not only your career, but also your life. Don't wait to grow. Head to www.massimo-group.com today and see how their proven systems can work for you. This episode is also brought to you by Site to Do Business, the ultimate commercial real estate data analysis and mapping tool. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, Site to Do Business provides the data and insights you need to make informed decisions and close deals faster. Frankly, it's the tool that I use the most in my business. Access comprehensive market analysis, demographic data, and powerful mapping tools like ArcGIS, Placer AI, and flood maps all in one place. Identify the best locations for your clients, analyze market trends, and present your findings with confidence. Don't miss out on this game-changing platform. Visit stdb.com today and see how it can optimize your business. And now back to the show.
So if there's any concern at all and you have reasonable concern, like have somebody come out and take a look at it that knows what they're doing. A lot of times we can come out and we can say, I don't see anything that causes me to be like, maybe we should look further. And sometimes we come out, and I had a mold inspection last week, suspected mold in their bathroom, went in, found a massive water leak that was going on that they didn't know they had. That was just
creating the environment for mold to grow.
Fueling it.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we can come in and say, hey, you got a problem here. This is what's going on. Having somebody come out and take a look at it that knows what they're doing may save you a lot of trouble.
Yeah. So I get your point. Call. If you think, call.
Yeah. I mean, if you've had past water leaks in the area and you're seeing something that's suspicious, there's that. If you see something that looks like mold, if it's fuzzy, if it's growing,
Yeah.
if you're noticing weird smells, if you're coming in and going, what's that? It smells, my favorite is musty or mildew.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, I got mildew,
Yeah.
So
That's probably
It's easy to be nose blind in your own house.
it is.
But if somebody comes into your house and they're like, what's going on? Those people aren't nose blind.
We've all went into a hotel and walked in that door and been like, yeah, something's funky in here.
Right.
No, people have these leaks and then they don't address them correctly.
I think if there's a certain amount of temperature with water, you can get mold anywhere.
Right.
If you have a clean room and you open the door, now you've got mold. Almost. I mean, to some extent. If you open your windows in your house, you can get some kind of...
You're going to get some...
Yeah. But like beyond that, what happens if there's, I got a fire in a self-storage facility. That thing burnt all the way to the ground. So unless you're building it back for me, you're not restoring anything.
Right.
In a case like that. But sometimes there's like smoke. How do you handle smoke?
So downtown, we're working on a job right now that fire suppression was set off because a computer monitor, caught on fire.
Oof.
The door was closed. They got hot enough in that room to set the fire suppression off.
Oh.
Luckily, fire suppression did go off. Unfortunately, it didn't notify the fire department or the security company, the monitoring company.
It flooded the streets downtown as well.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it just kept rolling.
It just kept running. The fire suppression went off, and it filled up the second floor, ran down to the first floor, and started running out the front door.
Yeah.
And they think it could have been running for days over the weekend.
So a lot of times there's times whenever these fires have a smoke aspect and a water aspect. The fire department came in. There's a lot of times, there's a hybrid of the two. Do you want to talk more specifically about smoke? Like, let's say, tell them about, we've got a project going on here locally where a commercial building, it had a small fire, a LED overhead light. LED lights aren't supposed to catch on fire.
Right.
It did. And it dripped down molten plastic onto the carpet. The carpet caught fire, burned about a 5x5 area, but put significant smoke damage throughout the entire building because it happened on a Saturday and it sat till Monday.
Oh,
Awesome.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and the process to handle that is really similar to how we handle mold. We have HIPAA vacuums and HIPAA air scrubbers and filtration devices that we set up, and we build containment plastic walls to keep things separate. And so we set those areas up. We go in and HIPAA vacuum with HIPAA vacuums and horsehair brushes, and then we have Kim sponges. There's these special sponges that clean soot and smoke off of walls and contents and stuff. And then you HIPAA vacuum again after you're done. In some situations, you have to paint or seal and paint after you're done there too.
Yeah.
This was a commercial property, actually a bank. It was a bank. So there's also challenges that come with that.
Yeah.
But all the ceiling tiles are very porous. So all that soot, smell, and you can't really clean those.
Right.
So those have to be removed and replaced.
Yeah.
And then the example downtown we were talking about, fire suppression water it's not sewage, it's not floodwaters, but it's a stanky water. Like it doesn't move. It's
you really
stale.
wouldn't expect it. And so I walked in, I was the first person on site during that, and I see water just raining down, and the property owner's just standing there with his hand in his head in his hands, like, what in the world have I done to deserve this? And I get it. So they are like, we shut the water off, but it's still coming out. We don't know what's going on. Well, luckily, we've been there before. I knew the layout of the building, so I take off downstairs and I shut the fire suppression system down, get everything shut down. Well, water's still coming out with the fire suppression system off.
Oof.
Big lines. They hold a lot of water.
A lot of pressure.
And that water sits still for years. So I open the drain. The drain goes down to a sump. I open the drain to drain the system down and get the pressure off the lines. And I'm here to tell y'all, it was the most horrendous smell in that basement. And the water came out black.
Oh.
And it gassed the whole basement out. I was down there about halfway ready to vomit.
Yeah.
And then after the fire suppression went off upstairs, I went back up there, and the property owner's standing there, and he's like, this smells terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nasty.
What is the black? Is it?
So there's a couple different things. There's growth. There's products that may be put in the line to keep it from deteriorating the fire suppression system. And then also you've got black iron pipe.
Oof.
That's probably got some degradation going on.
Yeah.
Is this particular basement, does it have, it's pretty much unfinished, but it has a little office on one side? Mm-hmm. Is that the basement?
Yeah.
Okay. I know this building. Yep.
Oh, cool. Cool.
I'll tell you about it later.
I know this building. Yep.
It's that 6'5" coming back out.
In my dreams, I'm 6'5". Yep.
Now we've talked so much about like when things go bad, when accidents happen. But I also know that there's, restoration can apply to just like fixing up your house or restoring something. Do you all do that as well? Or is it mainly like for accidents and damage?
Occasionally for a client that we've worked for, we'll and if they call us and say, we need some help doing this, we will offer remodeling services for them.
Remodeling, yeah.
But I would say 98% of the repairs that we do are after water or fire damage.
Gotcha. Okay, good clarification. You've got remodeling companies, right, that will come in and restore old stuff. And then you got restoration,
right,
where you're fixing problems and accidents that happen.
Well, and a lot of our training expertise and where we really kick butt is drying things out, getting things cleaned up, making things right. That's where we really excel.
Yeah.
Fast response, getting there quickly. We have people on standby ready to respond to things.
Yeah.
We have the equipment to, get the environments under control.
Yeah.
And try to, for example, the ceiling tiles that we assume fell out of that ceiling, we could have installed equipment to get the humidity under control, and that could have salvaged those ceiling tiles.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've had to pay for track and ceiling tiles, but the grid and ceiling tiles can be
Expensive.
very expensive.
Way more than you would expect.
So that brings me to a property that we did some work for one of, so I guess mutual client now, but they had a pipe freeze and bust across a pretty large facility, and it was, 1 to 4 inches depending on the grade of the concrete. And whenever we got there, it was, the ceiling tiles were starting to take on moisture. The glass fronts they're condensating and dripping water.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you don't get that under control and get it going the right way fast enough, it starts going the other way faster.
Yeah. It's almost like the fire department. You have people on standby, so whenever an accident happens, you get a call, they go right out.
Sort of, I guess. I would never compare myself to those guys. They're heroes.
Well, sure. Yeah.
But
absolutely. Yeah.
but we do respond quickly to.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
can't speed either. We're not allowed to drive fast.
You don't have sirens.
Right.
No. Yeah, and don't want them.
Yeah. And I can appreciate the humility, but you're heroes in your own right.
Thanks.
You're saving lives when you come in and you figure out, oh, there's mold going on here. When we had that flood a few weeks ago, right? For a restoration company, that means business is probably going to go up in the next few days.
This one was strange. A lot of people in Owensboro residential space, I guess commercial space too, they were like, we've had this property for years and this basement's never flooded. And it did this time. And a lot of times sump pumps couldn't keep up with this load. It was a freak rain.
And we'd had enough rain
Oh, everything was
leading
soaked.
up to it that, water table's up. And
Yeah.
I think there was more groundwater involved in this, which led to a lot of that stuff you're
And
talking
then it all froze. We got all that rain, and then 2 days later it all froze. Then we got snow. Then it all melted, and we're getting the waters from Eastern Kentucky. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was. It really was. We had, countless calls. We were having to put people on lists, which we hate doing. But
I guess that
Right.
the big rain happened on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And so Stuart and I spent Sunday. That was how we spent our Sunday, was running around sucking up water.
yeah, our team typically shares that responsibility. But when that kind of stuff happens, we just got to all jump in for sure.
This sucks for a lot of people, but this is good for business. That's going to be interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah.
Well, it's nice to be needed, regardless of the situation.
It's good to be needed.
There's like an element of that.
Yeah,
And they're created to help people in some of their worst days.
that's right.
Not necessarily life and death stuff, but
Mhm.
man, you have a fire or you have a water problem, or, you're talking about the guy who had his head in his hands. When I had that fire at the self-storage facility, one of our friends here in town that runs an online newspaper live streamed it
Mm.
for clicks.
Yeah.
I was very excited about that. I was driving home from Chicago and got to watch my property burn.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, you did.
I was
Yeah.
not excited about that whole thing.
Sure.
But it's a bad day.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
Most instances, you can put things back.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you're created to come through for people when the things do go bad.
That's right. Yeah.
So I don't think you need to ever feel sorry about that, but you're most useful when people are having some of their worst days.
Well, and this business, I think, it probably applies to a lot of businesses, but it seems like in this one, it comes in waves. We'll be sweeping in the shop for, a few days a week, and then we'll have more work than we can possibly do.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And so that's especially when it's weather events. We try to structure our company and plan for not weather related things. We want the leads that we get to be just organic things like plumbing failures and things like that. Just that's becoming more prevalent. I would say that the materials that are being made now, used to a water heater would last 20 years, 25 years. It wasn't that long ago we had one installed and it leaked that day.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
5 to 8 years now is what you're going to expect to get out of a water heater.
Bo, you said something there that it's just itching at me. So talking about
Did I say it wrong?
No, people's worst day. It's so interesting because a lot of times whenever we come in, people say this is the worst day of my life. I mean, granted,
It's probably not, but it.
yeah, granted,
It's like, yeah.
okay. We come in, and by the time we leave for that day, they are just over the moon, so grateful.
Yeah.
Because things have gotten better. And then a few days pass, and we get everything really under control, and things are looking great. They're a little less grateful. And then a week later, they really forgot how bad it was in the beginning.
Yeah.
They really lost perspective of how horrible it was. And now all of a sudden, attitudes change.
Well, now you're in their way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for your listeners, don't forget how bad it was the first day, because somebody helped you get it to that point.
Yeah.
And, now that everything's good, there was still a lot of work that had to get done to make that happen.
That's right. That's such a good point.
I've coined it trauma amnesia. They forget all of it's nonsense. I know it's not a real term, but people seem to forget. They put it out of their mind, and it's kind of difficult for us sometimes.
I'm glad you said that. I lived in Chicago for a while, and we got locked out of our apartment. And in those moments where there's no other key, what's going on, we got our kids with us, can't get into our apartment. I've never called a locksmith before. What do we do? I'm just like, oh, what is happening here? How long is this going to take? It feels in the moment like not the worst thing that ever happened, but it's so bad. Then the guy shows up. Didn't take too long. Felt like forever until he showed up. And then he got us in right away like it was nothing. And then, he told us how much it was going to cost. And I'm ashamed that I was like, it took you a minute to open that up. But in that moment, he let us in. I was so happy. And just in a few seconds, when he told me how much it cost, I was like, what? You barely had to do anything. But it's like all the time and all the training, all the tools that he has to know exactly what to do to get us in so quickly.
And he probably dropped everything to come do it.
100%.
Yep.
And you know what the inverse of that is?
What?
If I weren't as good at my job and it took me 10 minutes,
Yeah.
would that make you feel better about my
No.
fee? Like you're penalizing me for being an expert at what I do?
Right.
Like,
Yep. Yep.
When you said that, it was like, it's so easy to.
There's a lot of downtime, like I was telling you in the line of work we're in. It's where sometimes we're twiddling our thumbs, and sometimes it's, we can't do it all. So, you have to pay for all of that time that you're not being productive and not being busy.
Right.
And we take advantage of that time to maintenance our equipment and try to keep things orderly and clean and stuff. But
Sure.
But that's a high overhead expense that you have to carry for when the work does come.
Sure.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, and that's something else. And when you're dealing with a restoration company, you have to also remember that if you're in the middle of a catastrophe event, a lot of people are in your boat and they're trying to help as many people as they can.
Yeah.
And you just kind of got to be a little bit patient with them, because a lot of people are in the same set of shoes.
Right.
And repairs and things like that, they're not immediate concern right now, because a lot of people are having that same bad day.
That's right.
Let's imagine some event has just happened, fire, water, whatever, fire, smoke, and then stinky fire suppression water all over a building. Like, what are some of the major mistakes that property owners make when something like this? Because we generally, one, this is rare, thankfully, and two, there's not like a playbook for this most of the time. So what are some of the big mistakes that property owners make? And for you brokers out there, this could really help you advise your clients when this kind of thing happens.
I'd say try to be preemptive and try to have a plan for this in advance, whether it be, who your contractors are going to be, who you're going to call, that you had those conversations with your insurance company about what's covered and what's not, so you're not surprised.
They wait too long to make the phone call. It's a big one.
Who are they calling? Who's the first call they should make?
Ghostbuster.
Well, we would like to tell them to call us first, absolutely. But a qualified restoration company that hopefully you've got a relationship with that you can trust.
No, let me rephrase my question. Should they call you or a company like you first? Should they call their insurance company first? Should they call somebody I'm not thinking of?
I would say depending on the severity of the issue. You know, if you've got $1,000 deductible, then, you know, just take a look at your understanding of what materials cost and say, okay, do I have what we say double your deductible. So if you got $1,000 deductible, times 2 is $2,000. Do I think I have over $2,000 worth of damage here? Is that worth filing a claim? So that's the first thing we do is try to evaluate that for somebody. So if it's this whole building is full of water, we need to be your first call, or a restoration company. If it's my sink overflowed and I got a little issue in the kitchen, I think we could still help you decide whether you need to call your insurance company or not.
When people's first call is their insurance company, a lot of insurance companies will tell them you need to call a professional and get them out there and get them on this. Most of the time, but there's a percentage of the time where the insurance company files a claim and they say, okay, and the people wait for an adjuster, and then a week later the adjuster comes out and takes a look at it, and now it's 2 weeks have passed, and then they call and they're like, well, we had a water leak. The insurance company came out and looked at it and said, well, it's 2 weeks have passed. How much additional damage happened because you waited?
Right.
Well, I think that's one of the issues we had with that apartment building was I called you first.
Mm-hmm.
And the insurance company tried to use that against me. I think that's one of the insurance companies you probably don't work with very often anymore.
That's true.
So,
Yeah.
But
some of the companies, some insurance companies and some restoration companies have a partnership, if you will. Let's say my restoration company works directly with the insurance company. We follow the guidelines and we've agreed to a contractual agreement that they're going to send me their leads. Some carriers really want you to use their vendor. There are reasons why, you know, and there's reasons why, but
There's a conflict of interest potentially there.
Yeah.
Sounds
Well,
like-
I have a son who likes to wreck vehicles. We won't say who it is.
He does, Ben.
Ben.
so much for that.
So we don't use that particular insurance company anymore. Actually, they asked us to leave.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I get it. But the auto body shop that we would use anyway is the auto body shop that is aligned with that insurance company. And so it made everything very easy. Mm-hmm. And in this case, I know those people at the body shop. I would have taken it there anyway. It just so happened that the mess that can be the insurance process was just really streamlined because they work together on purpose contractually. And I was like, man, that made things easier. But it can create a conflict where they're trying to make their lives easier, not serve the person with the issue.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
Sure.
And that's what I ended up feeling is like when we did that one deal, man, insurance was giving you the business, you know, and they were telling me one thing and you're like, nah, that ain't right. And then I didn't trust the insurance company but I didn't know enough to know what was going on. And I didn't feel like the whole thing was taking care of me well, even though you guys were doing great work for me. Like for me, it makes a lot of sense that you are my first call, you know, or depending on where you're listening, you know, a company like yours. And then you call your agent who's hopefully going to help quarterback the process, who, you know, works with a company that actually likes to serve their clients and not figure out a way not to pay claims. And yeah, it's a dicey situation, but I like your advice of, man, you can kind of role play this a little bit with your agent and say, all right, let's say I have a leak. All right. And let's say this apartment floods or this commercial space floods and I've got $30,000 worth of damage and we're going to have to replace some drywall up to about 3 feet. And we're going to have to get the scrubbers in there and the horsehair brushes. I don't understand the horsehair about the brush. You don't have to answer that now, but you can kind of role play like, what's my insurance policy say about this situation? Because when I read an insurance policy, two things happen. One, I fall fast asleep.
Yeah.
And two, the words they use aren't regular language.
Yeah.
It's almost it's like a version of legalese when you read it. Like if you're reading a lease for the first time, you're gonna see words in there that you don't see on a regular basis. You're like, I think I know what that means, but insurance policies to me are opaque because of that, and they're just not very clear whether that's intentional or otherwise. It just uses a version of language that I don't see on a regular basis. And if I were an insurance agent, I think this is a great way to give service to my clients and build a lot of loyalty. Would be to just kind of role play some scenarios instead of what I normally want as a property owner is, look, I need this covered because the bank requires it, and I want a low price.
Yeah.
And stuff almost never happens. So I'm just going to move forward
Right.
as if it's probably not going to happen because it's probably not.
Right.
Well, that's all fine and good until it happens.
Right.
And then you find out what your policy actually says.
Yeah. There's all these things that we cannot control, like accidents, floods, leaks, or things. Is there a common thing that you see that could have been or that can be prevented before it gets bad? And again, like, I know if you wait too long, it can get worse. But is there a common thing that you see a lot where it's like, oh, this probably wouldn't have happened if they would have X?
So there's preventative measures that you can take, and I would probably recommend you talk to professional trades like plumbers, electricians, things like that.
Yeah.
But sump pumps, having a backup power supply
Okay.
on those, maybe a secondary pump, under your water heaters and your air conditioners and HVAC units, have a pan installed where overflow can hit the pan and then be diverted outdoors. Things of that nature. People are real quick to install things and don't think about the preventative measures you can take that could really save a lot.
Yeah.
Do you think of anything else?
Yes.
All right.
So what he's saying, these preventative things, these pans underneath water heaters, all that points to have work done on your property by a qualified, competent, well-trusted individual. Whenever Bob the handyman down the street that says, I can be your electrician, I can be your plumber, I can be your HVAC tech, maybe he's good. Maybe.
Expert in all the trades.
Maybe he is.
Oh,
maybe,
we had one of those in Chicago. Dr. Bill, that's what we called him.
maybe he's
that
good.
He was.
Maybe he's good, but maybe he's not. Okay.
Yeah.
And hiring that qualified, trained, reputable person is going to get you a better product generally. They're going to install the water heater up to code. They're going to do it the way it's supposed to be done. When they install new plumbing fixtures, they're going to do it the right way. There's not going to be shortcuts. They're going to do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And so many times when things are done poorly, the people that do it poorly don't understand why it's an issue. Well,
Yeah.
it causes stress here. Electrical, they're overloading circuits. They don't understand the heat loads and the different reasons why there is code, the reason why it's supposed to be done a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, big thing, have it done right the first time.
Yep. Yep.
Another thing that people don't think about that's wild, having things done right the first time, even something as innocuous as trim carpentry. You've never probably thought about it, but
This is true.
people shoot nails. There are times when people shoot trim nails through a piece of trim into a pipe,
Oof.
and it sits there and it's fine. And then it finally rusts through.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of a carrier, an undesirable carrier, took an opportunity to deny a claim just last week that we were on. Trim carpenter remodeled a bathroom, and accidents happen. Sometimes that happens, but there are preventative measures. There's protective plates you can put over plumbing. You can mark the floor in certain areas when you can try to be
Strategic about
right.
where you fire
Right.
off those nails. Yeah.
So, but they shot this nail, it hit the pipe, and 3 years later, they have a water leak. So it took that long for that nail to rust off and create a big enough hole for water to come out.
Wow.
And this carrier said it's a leak over time, and it wasn't sudden and accidental. So, sorry.
Nice callback. Went full circle with the link over time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How cold does it have to be before you let your faucets drip when you go to bed?
Well,
My wife and I had this debate because right after we moved into our house, we had one of those super cold days.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a new house. She's like, should we drip the faucets? And I'm thinking, better dang not have to. But then my next thought was, why wouldn't we? It'll help her sleep at night, which will help me sleep at night.
Right.
So there's so many variables that's a nearly impossible question to answer. How well is the building insulated?
Pretty
What's
well.
the indoor temperature?
68.
Are the pipes on exterior walls or on interior walls only? Is it on the slab? There's different factors. I mean,
It's on a conditioned crawl space.
that helps a lot.
that helps.
Oh.
That helps tremendously. I mean, your threshold's going to be way different than somebody that lives in a home built in the 1940s and the plumbing's on an exterior wall and it's not insulated and the crawl space is not conditioned.
Yeah.
It can vary so dramatically.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep. And I've seen brand new built homes that have the spigots installed in the outside brick or vinyl or whatever, and there's a stiff wind that comes out of whichever direction and it blows it up in that cavity. They've never had an issue before. We would think that a couple years ago when we had that big freeze, that if it wasn't going to freeze then, if it didn't freeze then you should be good because it didn't get that cold again.
Right.
But the wind changes, the different directions the winds blow could direct air up into that wall cavity and freeze a spigot.
Yeah.
And then the fun thing about those is that they don't leak until you turn them on.
Yeah.
So
Oof.
Every spring we get to find out who left their garden hose hooked up all winter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Every spring.
yeah, well, and
Oh, shoot.
it could be the garden hose.
Stark realization
You need a minute?
just happened.
It could also be as simple as the pitch of that spigot. It's supposed to have a pitch to where water will run out it.
Yeah.
When you turn it off, water runs out. Sometimes they get installed where they're pitched this way and water is holding back here, and it's doing the same thing that a garden hose does.
Yeah.
So it's holding water, and then it freezes and it expands and breaks that copper.
Yeah.
And it doesn't leak until you turn it on.
Oh, boy. Well, I got something to test after this. I did. I left the garden hose out there hooked up.
We see it quite a bit.
That makes me think of a story.
Which story are you going to tell here?
Yeah.
Well, it's one I tell quite a bit, actually.
A classic.
A couple years ago, we were working in a really nice neighborhood. It was in Hunter's Ridge. Really nice house. It was one of these seasons like this time of year where we were having these real cold winters and then it'd get warm, be 65, 70 degrees outside.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I think they were on spring break, actually. The daughter came home. She parks her car out front. She hooks the hose up and she's washing her car.
Yeah.
And she decides to sit down and TikTok and scroll, and she's just sitting in her car. Mom gets home, walks in, and water is everywhere.
Like in the house.
In the house. So they turned the spigot on outside, and they left it on while she was sitting in her car after, I don't know if she had washed her car or whatever. The spigot leaks inside when you turn it on, and it broke through the drywall, hit the floor, flooded the entire first floor kitchen, and ran into the basement and flooded the basement too.
Oh, the dangers of TikTok. You just don't know.
That's where you went with that story?
Yeah.
TikTok caused another problem.
That's the moral.
Destroying the youth and property.
I thought you were going to tell about me giving you a bath whenever you were in.
Oh, that was a good one too. Yeah.
Tell us about that
Ooh,
time
I
you
do.
gave
I would like
Stuart
to.
a bath.
Yeah, I would like to hear about Stuart's bathing.
There was a house for sale in Owensboro. Nobody was buying it, and everybody was saying, "There's mold in this house. There's mold in this house." Well, we went in, and yeah, there was mold in this house real bad, and there were several different factors. But Stuart and I are going through and inspecting and trying to figure out what's causing this moisture issue that's caused this house to become infested with mold.
Yeah.
And we're going through, and Stuart's in the crawl space, and I'm going around and testing the frost-free spigots. And whenever I do that, I have a little technique of I'll pressure test them, and I can tell from the outside a lot of times if they're busted or not. And I turned one on and had my thumb over the thing, over the spigot. And when I did that, all the pressure went back in the crawl space on this guy.
Oh,
And
no.
I just hear him yelling, "Turn it off, turn it off."
It was a very narrow crawl space, like shallow, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's not like I could run away from the water.
Yeah.
And
I had him right where I wanted him.
when you've got the end of the garden hose and you push down on it, it makes it stream.
Yeah.
Well, hit me right in the face.
This is gonna go good in the movie that y'all gave me an idea for called "You've Got Mold." Yeah.
I just noticed that you said stiff and cavity and blow in the same 30 seconds.
In my face.
Cavity twice, actually.
face.
Stiff, cavity, blow, and I had him right where I wanted him. Did I tell you about that time I gave Stuart a bath? Oh,
And this is like the only time that I don't cash in on something like that and call it out. But y'all got me serious over here.
Well, we've gone for about an hour and 20. What have we forgot to ask you?
Yeah.
Do what you need to do on the front end. The longer you wait,
It's kind of like dental work, right?
the longer you wait, the worse it gets on a lot of these things. So jump on it, get it taken care of, save yourself the time, the headache, the hassle, the money,
Yeah.
because it costs a lot less to take care of something on the front end than it does the back end.
Well, thank y'all so much. This has been fascinating.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
man.
having us on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a lot of fun.
Where can people find you if they need you?
814 dry ASAP is a phone number that we have. So remember that.
Dry ASAP.
I like that.
Yeah.
814?
814.
Is that a new toll free?
It is. It shows up in Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, we found out after we bought the number.
yeah.
Yeah,
I got
but that's our emergency number. LipscombHydroCleaning.com is our website.
Find us on
The-
Facebook, Lipscomb Restoration Solutions.
Okay. Facebook.
Facebook. Yeah,
You all got to put up those. You got to do those. You got to take video of those carpets.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Those.
We need to
We'll
capitalize on that.
email you a few
Yeah.
good ones.
Please do. Please do.
I think you could probably set up bleachers in your building and sell tickets.
Yeah. Is there anything else that homeowners or property owners, because I wouldn't have thought, oh, bring in the rug or whatever. Is there anything else that you all would do that wouldn't be so obvious?
So anything disaster cleanup, emergency service related, we can definitely help with. Carpet and rug cleaning, air quality testing, mold testing.
Tile and grout, hard surface, LVP,
What's LVP?
vinyl plank.
Oh, yeah.
Something we didn't cover was material selections. When you're buying or building or remodeling property, making selections that are more resilient to water.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Can you give us like a, yeah.
So MDF is a particle board material that's held together by sawdust and glue.
Probably not great with water.
Water, and they don't mix.
Laminate flooring.
Laminate flooring is horrible.
Yeah. I mean, there's just several material selections that just don't vibe well with.
So you would think,
Wait.
though, wood and water, not a good mix. But like a good hardwood floor, like in your home.
Oak and water can be,
I mean, does it dry out okay?
so it can be less than disastrous. We do have a system and a method for drying out hardwood floors. It depends on how long it's been wet. If you get it really fast, I can take you to a house and show you where we saved tens of thousands of dollars worth of red hardwood oak.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's doable. It can be done in certain scenarios. So yeah.
When you're buying carpet and your pad, when you make a pad selection, it sounds really good to have a pet pad or a stain guard protector that doesn't allow stains to penetrate and get into the subfloor.
What that does is if you pour a glass of water out on the carpet, it doesn't let it soak into the pad. It keeps it up in the carpet where it's cleanable.
Oh.
Well, when you have a water leak or issue like that and water gets underneath and gets into that pad, it's not coming out.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You can't dry through a plastic vapor barrier. So
That's right. So what should people get?
Personal preference, and however, just understand that there are ramifications to even something as simple as material selection.
Yeah.
And whenever the day comes, if it ever does come, some of those materials, depending on what you've got, are going to affect what has to be done.
I never would have thought, I'm going to call restoration company before I choose some of these materials. But that sounds like a good idea. That it would also be good
I'm
content
sure
for the
they'd
Facebook.
love to employ somebody who just takes those kind of calls that they can't charge for all day long.
No, I
But it
understand
does
that.
sound like a
but
good blog post or something.
It does sound like
online,
good Facebook content.
Yeah,
right.
Some of those things, right? To build trust and relationships for when things do go bad. Oh, I saw these guys. They're talking about how, we could prevent them from getting business. I trust them. Sorry, I'm giving you all unsolicited content advice you weren't asking for.
We solicit.
We'll use that for sure. That's a good idea.
It is. I mean, those kind of things. It's like,
We could be stronger in our social media game for sure. So
well, you can give me a call anytime.
Okay.
Yeah, and I come by and I can help with like a little content strategy or some ideas that you could do quickly and easily.
Yeah.
Rug cleaning.
We can pay you with rug
that's
cleaning.
so easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then let me do it.
Yeah.
Let me do it.
He can even do a play-by-play.
That's right.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
do a
yeah.
play-by-play. All right, cool. Anything else?
No, I think we're good, man.
Sweet. If you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe, ding that little bell. Leave a comment. Let us know what you want us to cover. Was something in here very surprising? Let us know. Share this with somebody. If you thought about them, send it on over. Leave us a review on Apple. We shout out every single review that we get. And we also have a newsletter. It comes out every single Thursday. How do they subscribe to that?
You can go to subscribe.wgbaron.com. The content is, the latest podcast episode delivered straight to you, and then just sort of a mashup of other things I like to read about, like leadership, culture, negotiation, that kind of stuff.
That's right.
It's a quick read. You can roll through it, click through to what you're interested in,
That's right.
and we'd love to have you there.
That's right. If you ever thought about getting a virtual assistant and you're not sure, you should go to superpowershq.com/commercially speaking, set up a call, see how easy it is. It's changed Bo's life. Again, for the people in the back, superpowershq.com/commercially speaking. We want to thank Massimo Group and Site to Do Business for sponsoring this episode. And of course, Lipscomb Restoration Solutions. One more time, guys, what's your website?
LipscombHydroCleaning.com and 814 Dry ASAP.
Dry ASAP. So if you're in the Owensboro tri-state area, give them a call when something goes wrong. Guys, thank you so much. This is great.
You got
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Bye, Alice.
Hi, Alice.
Love you, brother.
Love you, man.
Have fun going to see your daughter play at Rupp Arena.
Rupp Arena, baby.